Strive to possess lips that bear fruits, for that is pleasing to God. Thank you for taking this time to hear from God's word. Hebrews chapter 13, verse 15 and 16 says, "Through Jesus, therefore, let us continually offer to God a sacrifice of praise, the fruit of lips that openly profess his name. And do not forget to do good and to share with others, for with such sacrifices God is pleased." Here we read about fruit of lips, about how it pleases God. Fruit of lips. What fruit does my lip produce? Pleasing fruit, that is pleasing to eyes, tasty to eat, or rotten fruit, that which is meant to be thrown away. We all know that we should live a life pleasing to God. But how do we do it? I want to give you three aspects, 3 points as an answer to how do we do it? How do we lead our lives pleasing to God? 3 aspects: realize, remind, and rebuke. The first point, realize. What is that which God is not pleased in my life? Is it my habits? Is it my attitude, my testimony, my relationships, any form of relationship? What are those areas in my life which doesn't please God? Realization. And when you realize, the second point, you need to remind from His Word. And the only way you can remind something is when you have in your mind. And that's why renewing of our mind is so important, just as we read in Romans chapter 12, verse 2. Romans chapter 12, verse 2 says, "Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind." Be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Remembrance. Now, if you stop with this first and second point, that is, you realized that you are not pleasing God and you remembered God's word, your situation is not going to be all right. The only way you can overcome and you can be fruitful in your Christian living is when you bring into place the third aspect, the third key, that is to rebuke. Rebuke the evil spirit. Rebuke the enemy that causes you to bring displease to God by your actions towards yourself, your words spoken to others. Fruit of lips that pleases God. So 3 points I said: realization, remembrance, and rebuking the enemy. I'll give an example. If you have been struggling, if your struggle is guilt and living in such a state, you need to realize that living in guilt doesn't please God. Because when Jesus came in this world, He came to give us life and life in abundance. So the realization that living in guilt doesn't please God. When you realize that, you need to remind from His word what says in Psalms 103, verse 4. It says, "Who redeems your life from pit and crowns you with love and compassion." Whatever that you have done in your life and is causing you to feel guilty, Jesus has redeemed you from that, forgotten that, forgiven you, and crowned you with His everlasting love and compassion. And the third aspect You need to rebuke the spirit of guilt that has taken away your peace, your joy, your freedom in spirit, and overcome the guilt. This is just one of the instances which I mentioned. There can be any other instances which you might be struggling in your life. The important aspect is to know yourself better. You knowing your struggles. So I want to conclude by reading out a verse from John chapter 15, verse 4. It says, "Remain in me, as I also remain in you. No branch can bear fruit by itself. It must remain in the vine. Neither can you bear fruit unless you remain in me." So let us introspect our lives. In whom do we remain in? That will determine what fruit of lips bear out from us. God bless you and stay tuned with Lub Dub Attune.